Some of you were here at the mentorship panel last night, and we talked about how, as developers, we are signing up for a career in lifelong learning. And we talked about at the panel last night about how within our organizations we have to find opportunities for us to continue to learn and to grow. And so we wanted to continue that conversation this morning by bringing in Gary Ware, who is an expert in play. And play is something that can open your mind to curiosity, because when we're in that mindset and we're having a good time, we are open to learning and we can retain information even more than we could otherwise. It is easier for us to learn new tasks when we're feeling relaxed. And play can also stimulate our imagination. It can help us adapt and solve problems, improving relationships and our connections with others. Sharing laughter can be fun, and it can foster, Sharing fun can foster empathy, compassion, and trust with others. Gary Ware is a creative yet strategic play consultant that was brought here to make your life even better than it already is. By day, Gary helps companies and professionals level up their skills, and by night, he's an improv comedian. In between all of Gary's passions, his most desirous one is helping people become the best versions of themselves through fun and entertainment. So please help me welcome the founder and creator of Breakthrough Play, Gary Ware.
Wow, hello everybody. You can hear me okay, right? Give me a thumbs up. Awesome. So happy to be here. I'm gonna be completely honest. When I got contacted about this, I was a little bit nervous. I was like, oh my God, they're gonna think I'm an imposter. I'm just like jumping into the community. But I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my story and how I got started. And believe it or not, I've had a little stint in developing. And I'll tell you about a website that I developed that I don't really talk a lot about because it's kind of embarrassing. But you'll hear that in just a moment. But yes, what I'm here to talk about is being creative. And as Chelsea mentioned, using play as a catalyst to help you be the best version of yourself. However, being that I am a person who likes to play, this is going to be a little bit interactive. And before you start groaning like, oh my God, I haven't even had coffee yet, I'm gonna do my best to make it as painless as possible. So you're gonna get to know the people that you're sitting next to a little bit, and maybe you learn a little bit about yourself. So we're gonna start with a game. All right, cool. This is a very simple activity, and what we're gonna do, it is called True For Me. I'm gonna say some statements. If it happens to be true for you, just raise your hand. And with your hand raised, just look around and just acknowledge the other people that have their hands raised, and then you just put your hands down. Very simple. We're gonna start with some very simple questions, and then we're going to get maybe a little bit more intimate. But rest assured, there are no lie detectors, so if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to. But I invite you to, because you might find out that you might connect with some people that maybe you didn't know about. So we're gonna start very simple. If this is true for you, please raise your hand. You've had at least 1 cup of coffee today. All right, cool, just look around, awesome, cool. You can put your hands down. If this is true for you, raise your hand. You are still a little bit tired. Cool, thank you for your honesty. I appreciate it. Our double hand, awesome. By just doing that, hopefully you get some endorphins and then you wake up a little bit, but I hear you. If this is true for you, please raise your hand. You consider yourself an introvert. And I know that might be challenging, but thank you for your honesty. All right, you can put your hands down. If this is true for you, raise your hand. You are an extrovert. Awesome, cool. There are a few developers that are extroverts. That's awesome. All right, cool. If this is true for you, raise your hand. You consider yourself an ambivert, so you're sort of like in the middle. All right, cool. Awesome. All right, you can put your hands down. If this is true for you, raise your hand. When you were young, you got in trouble for taking things apart. Cool, awesome. All right, I can relate. All right, if this is true for you, please raise your hand. You are just getting started in your career. Awesome. Cool, yeah, round of applause, yay. All right, cool. If this is true, raise your hand. You've been in the career for a bit, maybe like 3 or 4 years or so. Cool, awesome. All right, cool. Yeah, oh my God, I love it. If this is true for you, raise your hand. You've been in your career more years than you have hands to count. All right, go find these folks. Yes, these are the folks that will be mentors. You can put your hands down. Awesome, cool. If this is true for you, please raise your hand. You enjoy board games. Awesome, cool. All right. If this is true for you, raise your hand. You like to travel. Cool, awesome, cool. If this is true for you, raise your hand. You are a craft beer drinker. Awesome. And keep your hand raised if you have a beard. Not a beer, a beard. That would be interesting. You have like a beard, you're like, yes, I'm drinking right now. It is 5 o'clock somewhere, thank you. All right, anyways, all right, if this is true for you, raise your hand. At some point in your career, and maybe it might be now, we're not gonna judge, you considered yourself an imposter. Awesome, cool. All right, and then the last one, if this is true for you, raise your hand. You're just excited to be here with everyone in this community. Cool, all right, give yourselves a round of applause. Awesome, all right, our first activity done. Show of hands, how many people learned something new about someone in the last couple of minutes just by doing that activity? Awesome, cool. Again, that is the beauty of being playful and playing. We can connect with each other. We can, by doing stuff like this, we lower our sort of resistance to things, and it can help us be even more creative. See, in the day that we live in now, it is so complicated. Everything is changing so fast. A lot of things are uncertain. It's so ambiguous, and yet we are required to stay at the top of our game and perform and do all of these things, and most of the time we probably just want to stay in bed and not get up. Maybe it's just me. But yet we have to still go. And so there has to be a way, an advantage, something that we can do to allow us to be a little bit more resilient, to help us, especially when we're in that burnout stage, to overcome that. And that's what I'm going to talk about. So just a little bit about me. I'm Gary. I am like a playful person. I get you because I'm very silly. If you asked my parents, they would say that I have been making things up since I was a little kid. A little about me, one of my favorite holidays is April Fool's Day. If this is true for you, raise your hand. If you also like April Fool's Day, raise your hand. All right, cool. When I was young, in the middle of the night, right before April 1st, I would like booby trap the whole house. And I'm the oldest, and my two younger sisters just hated it. And the funny thing, to this day, my baby sister, she's like, I'm still gonna get you. And I haven't pulled an April 1st prank on her in years, but yet she's on her guard. Anything that happens essentially between the last day of March through the 2nd of April, she's like, I don't believe you. And so I'm still pulling pranks on her and I don't have to do anything. But the cool thing is, yes, I love playing and I love being playful. And I found that it is the fastest way to connect with someone. And so currently, I'm very fortunate that I can use the power of play in so many different environments. I can do it in groups like this. I can do it in small groups with teams. And I've been fortunate to work with people all over the world. And that wasn't always my career path. I didn't go to school to do that. Matter of fact, my background started in design. I went to the Art Institute in Santa Monica, and I got a degree in multimedia web design. And it's interesting because the school that I went to is obsolete. If you have any knowledge of the Art Institutes, they're completely bankrupt. And the career or the major doesn't really exist, but it does. And I tell people, well, I went to school to learn, or at least that's what I'm telling my parents so that they don't get mad at me because I still have student loans. And how that happened as far as my career path is that I originally went to school to be a teacher, and a music teacher specifically. And someone told me, well, you can never make money doing that. And matter of fact, they're cutting arts from all the programs, so you probably should do something else. And as an 18-year-old going to San Diego State, I was terrified. I was like, what? The career counselor didn't tell me this? And so I looked at all right, what else? And so I was like, well, what do I like to do? And at the time, this was in the late 90s, and I was in a band. I was in a ska band. I had blonde hair. If you're familiar with the 90s and you're familiar with Cisco, the thong song, that was me. But one of the cool things is that for our band, I was into the internet, and I built our website for our band in GeoCities. Anyone familiar with GeoCities? That was me. Yeah, I did that. And I was like, if I can do this would be awesome. So that's how I got into that. And also, I was also a big fan of other 90s pop artists, and I had a fan site for Christina Aguilera. I'm so glad GeoCities doesn't exist because that is quite embarrassing. But anyways, that got me interested in design. And everything that I started as play. I was curious about it and I wanted to figure it out. For our band, I taught myself how to use Photoshop, and I created our album cover. I wasted all the ink in my dad's printer and I blew out his CD-ROM, making 100 CDs. He was not too happy with that, but I was curious and I was playful. And I like to think everything that I starts from a place of play. I see the world as a playground. And then I graduated and I got into my career. And then I went from seeing the world as a playground to seeing the world as a proving ground. I had to prove to myself, I guess you can say, that I was worthy. And one of the first agencies that I worked with, so I went to school for design, and then I learned all of this stuff, and then I was like, this is the early stages of Google, and then I was like the web guy. So as a result, I learned how to do digital marketing, and that's great. And then that's sort of where my career sort of moved to. And I remember working for this agency, and everything was fun. It was a startup. I was employee 23, and we had a lot of fun. After work, we would hang out. It was that typical sort of agency vibe. We had the food table, we had all of that. We had the beer cooler, but we worked hard and we had fun. And then we started to grow, and the agency was venture backed, and so the investors were like, "It's time for you to grow up." And so I remember, just like it was yesterday, we all got into the conference room, and then the marketing team, they said, "We are shifting things around." And we were that agency that had all of our values on the really cool pictures on the wall. And they're saying, "We're consolidating some of these so that it's very clear what our focus is." And we had one that said fun. They took it off the wall. I remember this. They literally took it down and they set it down and they replaced it with excellence. They put that up. And fun was gone. We still worked hard, but the food table was still there, but we didn't use it. We found ourselves not hanging out after work. Not saying that you have to hang out with your coworkers. We just didn't have that sense of community. We were just heads down at our desk. And like I said, everything that I did started as a playground of possibilities, but then it shifted. Matter of fact, I found myself getting even more stressed out. And as I learned about the science of this, believe it or not, our brains are a little bit outdated. The same things that, like for example, back in the day when we see a saber-toothed tiger, the parts of our brain that light up are the same parts that still light up when you open your inbox and you see all of those emails. And so I found myself being completely stressed out. And I would go on vacation, and maybe you can relate to this. And I'm like, "Oh, finally vacation." And then I come back to work, and then by Tuesday, I'm like one of those old iPhones that by 11 a.m. needs to be recharged. So like I said, I saw the world as a proving ground, and I felt like I was one of those in this hamster wheel. I'm like, why am I doing this? And this is a job that I loved. This was, I felt like on paper, everything made sense. And then I had a moment. I was working with a mentor, and again, everything I was doing at this point was to optimize my career. And he gave me an idea for something that changed everything. And I'm going to tell you about that in a moment. But first, I want to ask you a question. As I mentioned in the beginning, play and creativity are essential for growth. And so I'm curious for all of you, how creative do you think you are? So think about it right now. Between a scale of 1, I am not creative whatsoever, and 5, I'm the most creative person in this building. Think about the number. So let's start with 1. How many people on a scale of 1 to 5 consider yourselves a 1? Raise your hand. All right, a few. Awesome. Thank you for your honesty. 2. Awesome. Cool. 3. All right. Cool. 4. All right. And 5. Cool. Just in the back. Awesome. Just a few. Awesome. A few over here. All right. Cool. Give yourselves a round of applause for doing that activity. Awesome. I appreciate it. Here's the thing. Most adults don't think that they're creative. And it's weird because kids are super creative. And we all were kids at one point. This is a picture of my son, and he's my firstborn now. We have an 8-month-old. So this was this was a few years ago. And it's the height of the pandemic. We're like not seeing anyone. And I'm like, oh my God, how am I gonna keep this ball of energy entertained? And then so this is his idea. We invented this game that's a mix of me blowing bubbles, he has a bat, and he's trying to hit them And then if he can hit all of the bubbles before I blow new ones, he gets 150,000 points. His idea. At some point, we grow out of that. And a wise person once said that adults are just kids who atrophy. And it's interesting. NASA did a study where they took all of these kids around 5, and they gave them a test on their ability to think divergently, creatively. And those 5-year-olds, those kindergartners, had genius levels of creativity. They kept testing them, and they found by the time that same cohort, by the time they were 18, it went from 95% of them had genius levels of creativity to 3%. It was such a depressing study, they had to cancel it. They stopped it. But if you think about it, a lot of things happen. So it started to go down around 13. So think about what happens when you're 13. We start to go through puberty, and probably around that time, you start to see people that have natural talents, and you start to judge yourself. I know I did. We were in art class. It was middle school, and Mark Lomahan. This kid was so talented. He was an amazing artist. He can draw photorealistic things at 12, 13. And I drew a horse, and it looked nothing like a horse. So in that moment, I was like, that is art. This is shit. He can draw, I can't. And that just became the narrative. And that's just one example, and I'm pretty sure you might have an example of that. But we are conditioned to not be creative. Fun fact, by the time you're 18, you've heard the word no 160,000 times. We're conditioned to think that there is only one answer. And when it comes to creativity, creativity is all about thinking lots of answers. However, if our brains are only conditioned to think of one answer, we get paralysis. So to prove that, I have a riddle. However, this is a super intelligent group. I'm pretty sure someone's going to get it pretty quickly, but let's just see. Let's just see what happens. So I'm going to say the riddle, and if you know it, just shout it out. Let's see what happens. So we got Tom and Frank. They were born at the same time, same hospital, same 2 parents on the same day, same year. They're not twins. How is this possible? They're not clones either, just FYI. I had... Oh, snap! They are triplets. Round of applause. Awesome. All right, cool. All right, you get a copy of my book. I'm just going to leave it right here. You can come in. I'll jump down. Yay. Awesome, cool. Round of applause for Joshua, everyone. They are triplets. So how many of you were like when you were thinking of all the possible ways that they could be twins, and you're like, what do you mean they're not twins? Some people said that, what if their parents went back in time? And I'm like, this is not the multiverse. But we are sort of tunnel vision on twins. We can't get past that. And that's just our conditioning. That's school. You go and you take a test. And by the way, this is not a beer. This is just water. And you're trained to think right or wrong. But creativity is more than that. And creativity is essentially problem solving. However, we pigeonhole it, and we wonder why we're burnt out, and we're having such a challenge staying motivated. As it pertains to creativity, it's important. It helps us with our self-expression. It helps us reduce stress and anxiety. It gives us a sense of purpose. Like I said, when I was 19 years old and I was building those websites, for my band and for Christina Aguilera, even though she never saw it, I was expressing myself. It gave me a sense of purpose. And when I was in it, I was in that state of flow. And it did help me reduce stress and anxiety. However, like I said, everything originally started as play, and then I went from seeing the world as a playground to seeing the world as a proving ground. The same activities that I did when I saw the world through the lens of a proving ground, I went from seeing people as my playmates to seeing people as my competitors. And I, saw the world through almost like that scarcity mindset instead of seeing it like abundance. And yes, I'm from Southern California, but I'm not like one of those sort of hippie sort of guys like abundance and stuff. I'm just saying that when you are in this state of creativity, when you are in that state of play, you can, do that same activity, and you can get in the state of flow, and time goes by like this. You're coming up with amazing ideas. You're connecting with people. However, it's all about our mindset. And so one of the things that, I discovered, so going back to my story, mentor of mine said, why don't you do this? It's going to help you with public speaking. It's going to help you think outside of the box. It's going to help you be creative. And I was a little bit hesitant at first, but it changed everything. And that thing that I got involved was AI. Now, it's not that AI, no. It's the other type of AI. It's called applied improvisation. And I took an improv class, and at first I was a little bit hesitant, like, what are you talking about? I'm not trying to be a comedian. I just want to be able to present to my clients and have them understand what I'm talking about and not be completely a ball of nerves. And he said, just take the class. And I went there, and to be honest, I almost didn't go. But I did, and it was amazing, because for 2 hours, I was in that state of play. For 2 hours, we were completely present. And I went home after that first improv class, and my wife thought I was drunk. I told her, no, you don't get it. We were having fun and stuff like. She's like, you sure you're not drunk? Because this morning you were nervous, and now you're saying that it was. So I'm like, yeah, it's not what you think. And I loved it so much, I started bringing these activities and these games to my work. At the time, I was a new director, and I wanted to be a good boss. And so I saw this as an opportunity for us to connect. So before meetings, we would do some of these games, and on Fridays, and before we knew it, we were closer. And again, this was before I knew all of the data behind this. It was just something that we just did. But we were connecting on a deeper level. We had higher levels of psychological safety, and when things would go wrong, we were quick to jump on it. And we didn't have this fear that if we called something out, we would get reprimanded. And so what applied improvisation is using the techniques that improvisers use to perform on stage, use that in a non-theatrical environment. And these are some of the benefits of applying that and learning it. You can be better problem solvers. You can think on your feet. You can increase the confidence in your work. You are more comfortable taking risks. It helps you be more resilient. You can build trust among your team, and you can be a better collaborator. Show of hands, how many of you could use some of this in your sort of day-to-day? Awesome. Keep your hands up if you think some of your coworkers could also use this. That's one of the benefits of this, is that with improvisation compared to other forms, we consider ourselves a team. We're an ensemble. We are working together for a bigger purpose. And what I'm going to, this is sort of like going to the gym, for your brain. It helps with mental fitness. And what we're going to do is I'm going to talk about 4 of my favorite improv principles that can help you be more creative. And we're going to do a few activities Very easy to help you just experience this right now so that when you go back home, you have some things that you can do just to help you, especially when you're starting to get stressed out and you're like wondering, like, why am I here? So one of the first improv principles that are one of my favorites is all about noticing. When we're on stage and we're performing, we are making things up without a script. We have no props. And how it works is all about increasing our ability to be observant. And how that helped me when I went back to work is that I was able to spot things, I was able to notice things, and it almost seemed like I can see in the Matrix. Because I was a better listener, because I was a better observer, my wife appreciated this. So pre-improv, my wife would come home, be sitting there, I'm like, oh, she walks in the door, I'm like, hey honey, how was your day? She's like, okay. I'm like, oh, awesome. That is not a good response. Okay, or, it was okay. Two different responses. What we're gonna do, real quick, I want you to look around the space and just to notice things. Just imagine that this is one of the first times that you're in this room. Look around, see if you can just see it through a different lens. And I want you to remember one of the things that you notice, because it's going to come in handy later. You know, maybe it's the little sign over there, maybe it's a little vent, maybe it's someone's backpack. I don't know. Just notice one thing. Awesome. Give me a thumbs up once you have that. Put it in memory, because again, it's going to come back later. All right, so that is one of the first things I picked up in improv, and it just helped me on so many different levels. Again, we were practicing it time and time again, and I like to think that anything that happened on the stage, the moment I left, I couldn't just turn it off. It just was part of me. And that's one of the things of play and practice. Like any sort of thing that you're practicing, you just sort of get better, and it just becomes more of an unconscious response. So the next one, and this is a bit challenging for most adults, finding joy in mistakes. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and just make a lot of mistakes. I'm just saying that when we make mistakes, that is on the path of learning. A lot of times, we confuse not being good at something with being a beginner. And we need to separate those. Because imagine, so like I said, I have young kids at home. Imagine for my oldest when he was learning how to walk, instead of like being that compassionate parent that is like, oh my God, you're learning. I'm like, dude, you suck at this. Keep up, son. Like, that's not compassionate. That is not empathetic at all. But that's how we talk to ourselves, right? When we're learning something new, we're not good at it yet. But we're like, oh my God, I suck at this. Oh my God, did you see what happened? So in improv, when we're doing these activities, when we're on stage, a lot of times mistakes happen. And in improv, we like to say, there are no such things as mistakes. Mistakes are gifts. And that's what I mean by finding joy in mistakes. If you want to be that person that is part of that high-performing team, you have to be all right with saying, you know what, we made a mistake here. How are we going to shift, or how are we going to fix it so that that mistake doesn't happen again? So I'm not saying go out and just be a failure. I'm just saying if a mistake happens, how can we celebrate that and use it as a learning lesson? So what we're going to do a quick activity. It's called Take 5, and this is going to help us get better at mistakes. So you're going to probably make a whole bunch of mistakes. That's all good. How this activity is going to go, I'm going to call out a number between 1 and 5. I'm going to teach you what each of these mean, and then I'm just going to sort of flow with it. And you're probably going to make some mistakes. It's all good. If you make a mistake, just shake it off. In improv, we have a thing called a failure bow. Like if we make a mistake, oh, ta-da, yay. And that's something that I do on a day-to-day basis. I'm like, oh my God, I had a typo on that email. Ta-da. It's sometimes challenging, but again, if you could do that, you can get in that growth mindset. So if you hear me say 1, what you're going to do, you're going to beat a drum, and it's going to go like this. So when I say 1, what are you going to do? There's sound to it too. All right, cool. 1, Awesome. When you hear me say 2, you're going to move towards your crew and you're going to say, woo. So when I say 2, what are you going to do? Woo. When I say 1, poof. Awesome. All right, when I say 3, you're going to put your hands in the air like you're on a roller coaster and say, wee. So 3, wee. 2, woo. 1, poof. 1, poof. 2, woo. 3, wee. All right, cool. 4, this is like when you're on a plane, you know, the flight attendants say, locate the nearest exit. When you hear me say 4, you're going to find a door and you're going to point to it and say door. So 4, door. 3, 2, 1, 1, 3. Awesome. 4. Awesome. Great. You're doing amazing, by the way. All right. If you hear me say 5, you're going to let out a big sigh. You're going to put your hands in the air and you're going to go like this. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, cool. That was all of them, right? All right, give yourself a round of applause. All right. Now I'm going to start to flow through them. I'm going to stop doing them because I notice when I do them, people are just looking at me like, what is he doing? I don't want to look dumb, so I'm just going to like follow him. No, be proud. If you make a mistake, it's all good. All right, so here we go. Do the best that you can. It's all good. If you make a mistake, just jump back into it. Have fun. Here we go. 1, 5. Yeah, give yourself a round of applause. No, I love that someone said door and everyone's like, door. No, that's 4. 5. Cool. 4. 2. 3. 3. 1, 2. 2. 5. 5. 3. 2. 1. 1. 1. 5. 5. 3. 2. 2. 2, 2. 3, 3. 1, 5. 5, 1. 1, 1, 1. 1, 1, 3. 1, 1, 2. 1, 1, 2. 1, 1, 1. 5, 5. 3. 3. 3, 2. 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3. 5. All right, give yourselves a round of applause. Oh my gosh. Wow. All right, cool. Show your hands. How many people made a mistake? All right, cool. Yay, that's great. In that, if you made a mistake, did you let it get you down? Did you just like give up on this game? Right? We stepped into it. We're like, all right, cool. All right. Anyone question? I'm curious. Raise your hand if you tried to anticipate what I was going to do. Anyone? All right, a few people. That is just normal. Like I think I know what he's going to do. All right, cool. I got to be ready. We're so competitive, but it's all good. Again, if we can find joy in mistakes, that's how we learn. That's how we get better. And then the next one, and if you're familiar with improv, you probably heard this one a lot. And this one is, here it is. All right, cool. Yes and. Yes and is the foundation of improv that allows us to co-create without a script. On stage, what it means is if my scene partner makes a suggestion, an offer, I don't deny them. I accept their offer and I build on it. What yes and means in the real world is that we acknowledge what is presented in front of us and then we build. And I like to say we build on it with positivity. Yes and doesn't mean that we say yes to everything because sometimes it's impossible to say yes to everything. However, I want to, when I was learning this, I realized that I had this no bias. I would say no to so many things and it was usually out of fear. So, that was the first thing that I learned is like, oh yeah, I'm probably just saying no just because. I'm in meetings and I'm saying no because I want to throw my idea out there. So the first thing was to realize like, oh yeah, imagine how things would be if I were to say yes and build on that. And then I got so into it that I said yes to everything, and then I burnt myself out. And I'm like, oh damn, man, improv, damn it. And so then I realized yes and is acknowledging the reality and then building on it. So if someone, if I was truly overwhelmed and I couldn't do it, I would say, wow, that sounds like an amazing opportunity. That is great for you. I unfortunately can't do that. So I'm like, all right, anyways, but yes and is all about acknowledging and building. It's great for brainstorming because often we're in these sort of brainstorming meetings and we try to come up with ideas and we're saying no. And what happens when you say no all the time, or the infamous yes but, which is essentially no in a tuxedo, is just a nice way of saying no. You're essentially telling the other people, hey, your ideas don't matter. And then after a while, they just stop giving ideas. And so how we're going to practice this, I would like to invite you to just get in a quick group of 3 with people around you. We're going to play a game. So first get into like a quick group of 3. Do that first. If you don't know each other, give each other a high five, introduce yourself. All right, cool. All right, figure out who's A, B, and C. Go ahead and do that now. Figure out who's A, B, and C. You're gonna get a chance to do all of them. All right, once you have that, give me a thumbs up. Great, all right, cool. So the name of this activity is called Alien Definitions. And this activity is gonna go like this. A is going to say a word that's never been said before. And I know this is gonna be challenging and you're gonna like feel self-conscious. Whatever you say is gonna be correct. So it's like bibbly bop or something like that, like whatever. And then B is going to give the definition of that word. And so B, again, this is a made up word, so don't overthink it. Just like whatever sounds like, whatever it makes you think of, that's the definition. So bibbly bop. Oh, and then B was like, oh, this is the sound that people make when they get up in the morning and they haven't had coffee. And then, all right, cool. So that's the definition. Bibbly bop, the sound that people make in the morning when they haven't had coffee. And then C, you need to use that word into a sentence. So C might say, oh my gosh, I woke up late this morning from work and then I bibbly bopped all the way to the office. And so that's how it is. And so after you do that, then you rotate, then the next person, B, will give a new word, C will give the definition, and then A will use it in a sentence. And then after that happens, then C will give a word, A will give a definition, and then B will use it into a sentence. So go ahead and do that now. Once all 3 of you got a chance to do all the roles, give me a thumbs up, have fun, and go. Alrighty then, give yourselves a round of applause, We're gonna finish this up. Awesome. We're almost out of time. Really interesting. Show of hands, how many of you heard some really interesting words and definitions? Anyone? Awesome. That is what happens when we collaborate, when we work together. We are more creative together than we are individually. And that couldn't have happened without all 3 of you working together. And so the last one, there's so many principles of improv, and I had to just limit it to 4. And this one is one of my favorites. We is greater than me. And what that means is that as an ensemble, we are greater together than we are individually. You know how they say there is no I in team? I did find the I. It happens to be in the a-hole. So that's where the I is. Anyways, that's a better visual joke than it is out. So, but it's all about the ensemble. And that is something that I learned practicing improv, is that it is all about the community. It's all about us working together. It's all about asking for help and then everyone piling on and supporting each other. And so how we're going to practice that, in the beginning, when we went over Notice More, I had you pick an object. And so what's going to happen is when I say go, you're going to turn to your neighbor, and you're going to have like about 12 and a half seconds to combine those objects. And that is going to be the name of your rock band. So go ahead and do that now. Yep, just your neighbor. Combine the two objects, or three objects. You all right there, what was the name of yours? Say that again? Ooh, all right, so theirs was red light scaffolding. That's amazing. So we're gonna work with that, red light scaffolding. From over here, what was the style of music that red light scaffolding plays? What style of music? Ska, yeah, duh, hello, ska. All right, red light scaffolding is a ska band. And from over here, what was the name of their debut album? Red Light Scaffolding. Just anyone over here. Say that again? Give shining lights. Give shining dots. Give shining dots, right? That is the name of their album, Red Scaffolding ska band. Give shining dots. Yep, we'll go with that. All right, cool. That's the name of their debut. Ska bands and their ironic titles. Yeah, that makes sense. The song that everyone likes has a chorus that just gets in your head. What is that? Just someone over here to shout out. Just. Camera podium. That's the chorus? Yeah, let's all sing it together. Camera podium. Awesome, cool. Can you three stand up? All right, cool. Red Light Scaffolding has an amazing album cover. So on the count of three, just strike a pose. 1, 2, 3, strike a pose. That's the album cover. Amazing. Give them a round of applause. Have a seat. All right, cool. As you can see, we are better together than we are individually. We co-created that experience. And I just want to leave you with this. If you can remember those 4 principles and apply them on a day-to-day basis, you can go from seeing the world as a proving ground where we are competitors and you're stressed out to seeing the world as a playground of possibilities. And show of hands, how many of you had a little bit of fun? A little bit of fun? Awesome. If you want to play some of these games with your colleagues or with your kids or with your roommates or whatever, I put together a PDF. You can just scan this or go to the URL. Some of my favorite games. As soon as you scan it or go to the URL, the PDF's going to show up. You can download that. Awesome. And then I want you to think about the question I asked you in the beginning about creative. My hopes is that by us playing around together and going through this, you can start to see that you are a little bit more creative. So I want to ask that question again. You don't have to answer, but I want you to think, how creative do you think you are now? Hopefully, you've improved at least 10%, a little bit. You know, maybe if you were 1, maybe you're like a 1.5 or something like that. It's all about gradual improvements. And then I'm going to leave you with this quote: "The truly great advances of this generation will be made by those who can make outrageous connections, and only a mind which knows how to play can do that." So my name is Gary Ware. It's been a pleasure connecting with all of you. Thank you so much.